Good Christmas Eve morning, guys. What we're going to talk about is probably a little bit of a departure, but something I do care very much about and was a very important part on my journey. And in a way, not really. No, ties in. To kind of what we're going through right now and what's going on. Maybe not. Um, what am I looking for? Words are escaping me. But like with the Great Conjunction and moving into the Age of Aquarius and that kind of thing, kind of a reset. Stepping into a rebirth, that kind of thing, right? So we're going to talk about vaginal de-armoring. So I came across this about 2 years ago, and I think it's one of those things that if you have to ask if that's something you need to do, then you probably don't need to. Not that if you did just want to go for it, that it would be detrimental to you in any way. There's certainly a great amount of healing from it. But I think it's those ones you look at when you read exactly what it is, you're like, yeah, I need to do that. And for me, it's a healing, but also a reclaiming of very vulnerable parts of you. And typically that has come from trauma in this life. But it can still also hold ancestral trauma as well. And that's can kind of take up this whole kind of womb space. So a lot of the ancestral is in your belly, but you kind of never know what's going to come up from this, actually. And typically if you want to know why something like this might be beneficial, for me, sex has not been terribly exciting, and not that that's uncommon, but there were parts of my vaginal wall that were numb, and as I've done some reading and research, some of that can come from using vibrators, and not because they're bad for you, but because it allows this disconnection from your body. And so I think between that, just not having a lot of sex, and some mild physical trauma. There has been some mild sexual trauma. It just didn't. I was coming into a bit of a sexual awakening, and I didn't. There's something missing, and that's usually how you kind of know. Like there's something missing. I'm not moving forward. I'm not. It's one of those kind of stagnation things. And so, working with this de-armoring of the vagina brings up a lot of healing for guilt and shame in different parts, and not just maybe some of the obvious things. I'm sorry, I saw bright lights. But it can be with sexuality. It can be through accepting of your body. It can be just even not standing up for yourself for little things. it a lot of times doesn't have to anything to do with sexual trauma. It's just not being true to yourself. But for a lot of women, if you're not getting what you need, right? And then we lean on vibrators, right? So, and a lot of that ends up you get what you need in a sense, but you're disconnecting from your body, and really it ends up being a lot like a recreational drug, because then you kind of need a little bit more. Eventually you kind of plateau. You need a little bit more. You need a little bit more. You need to figure out a different way to maybe visualize, or you need to get a more powerful vibrator, right? It ends up kind of being this thing where you need to get a little bit more, and then there's a level of frustration, right? When you kind of get to this place where whatever, you can't find a more powerful one, you can't relax enough to do it, you can't, whatever it is. And a lot of that is stuff we've been doing to ourselves because we're not being true to ourselves. So I definitely want to talk more about this and kind of the road to this and how to do this for women, because it has allowed me to connect with my body a lot more, and not just sexual stuff necessarily. So if you're getting kind of, if it's triggering, good, actually, because triggering, whatever issue you have where it's triggering you, that's where the healing starts. Okay, so if it's triggering you, sorry, not sorry. But when you know how your body works now, or even like when you feel like you know how it should work and it's not, when you get to that understanding, there's a real sense of empowerment there. Big time. Because again, you hear it all the time, right? Like, happiness comes from within. If you don't love yourself first, you can't truly love anybody else. I'm just generalizing here. Sorry guys, rain. But again, knowing how to turn yourself on, knowing how to get there. That's a big thing for women. But also, because you're spending more time, in your vaginal area and getting to know parts of your body, you also know when something comes up that isn't right. And so when you go to the doctor, you can go, this is what's going on. This is not normal. So some doctors may go, well, it's not all that uncommon. You go, no. This is not normal for me. So again, there's all kinds of areas of empowerment when you start doing this. It's typically a very slow process, depending on how much healing you have to do. So this is not something to be rushed. And that is very frustrating for a lot of people, and myself included, because I committed myself to this. And aside from the idea that if you're just kind of getting into this area about healing your sexuality and trying to get to some body acceptance and stuff like that, you may not be familiar with this, but in Tantra and orgasmic manifesting and all that kind of stuff, there's the idea that it's just about focusing on the pleasure. Like, you don't worry about the orgasm. You just focus on what feels good. So it can be frustrating because that's what we're familiar with, right? We hear it from society, we see it in movies, our friends, that kind of thing, right? They're not getting to orgasm with their partner, so they're always having to do it themselves. And you kind of have to be really, really patient and gentle with yourself, because that's not what it's about. And if you just don't get there, that's part of the healing, right? Because again, it's about controlling a situation. And so if that spills over into other areas of your life, that's about releasing the control. So it's a very I don't want to say slow process, but it is a process you have to be very, very patient with. And sometimes you'll get to do some work for a good 30 minutes, and it's wonderful. Sometimes you're going to go, okay, I really need to do this today, and you're only going to maybe get 5 or 10 minutes. And that's okay, right? Again, you need to be patient with yourself. Journaling really helps with this. I'm always a big proponent of journaling. I don't always do it. I have different stages of my life where I do that. But I can talk more about the process. But I wanted to talk more kind of about what it is. And it's really about empowering yourself and releasing trauma, healing in areas of the big one, like I said, is control. Because a lot of that ends up spilling into other areas of your life, trying to control a situation. Because you haven't had control. Most women, actually, that's a society thing. But in your maybe reproductive rights, in your physical intimacy area of your life, that kind of thing, and that spills over and gets held onto in your cells. So, and it's really amazing. You'll notice as you go through this process, especially for me, the areas that felt numb, and it's weird if you don't understand what that is. It's kind of hard to describe. I mean, yes, I could feel my fingers pushing on, like I could feel the pressure, I suppose, but I wasn't getting anything out of it. It like my cells didn't react to it at all. There was just no kind of mind-body connection, mind-heart-body connection there. And so as this stuff comes up and it feels safe enough to release, you'll start noticing you're getting feeling back in parts where you didn't really have any feeling. And let me tell you, that moves you like nothing else, especially if that's something you're not accustomed to. Or even if you were maybe a while back, and this is a process that has come up over time, because that happens a lot too, right? Once we're living in the real world as we become adults, and now we're being used to being told what to do and how to be. You may be going through a phase where that's happened, right? And so feeling the way you used to feel again, right? So it's very, very powerful, and it is something I highly recommend when you're ready for it. Like I said, like, you'll read about it and what it is, and you'll go, yes, I need this. And even if you don't feel that strongly about it, I still recommend it. But I do recommend committing to it, because if you don't really stick with it, it's going to seem just kind of like anything else that's a little bit difficult. You're just going to go, oh, it doesn't work. So I really recommend, even if you're not feeling like, yes, I need to do this, stick with it. Give yourself some time to really commit to it. And I still believe you'll get something out of it. And even then, you'll most likely return to it later, because you did have that really wonderful experience with it the first time too. So as far as stuff that comes up, also, it may not be all that deep. So there's also a cervical de-armoring, which is obviously further up. A lot of that is deeper stuff, and I'm not as well versed in that, so we're not gonna go there right now. But vaginal de-armoring is something I think it needs to be talked about more. I was looking for an infographic to put up on Instagram. I was looking on Pinterest, and there's nothing. So I want to start talking about it more, because I think it's super, super important, and it has had a really big impact on me. it's also really, really important for manifesting, guys. If it hasn't really worked for you, just some different manifesting avenues, and you've come to this place, like you're watching this video, I really, really recommend trying this. And again, even just for that fact, if you're not focused on healing parts of you like that, if you're like, yes, I'll try anything to get manifesting to work, that may be kind of your segue into that, right? To heal those parts of you, to help, because sex, money, love, it's all the same energy, guys. Abundance, it's all abundance. It's all the same energy. Prosperity, all of that. And so if there's parts of you, of your sexuality and your physical body that need healing, that is probably what's keeping you from manifesting your deepest desires. So I definitely recommend looking into this. I'm going to start talking about this more because it just needs to be put out there. So if you are interested in a little more about this general thing or idea or practice, there is for cervical disarmoring, there is a wonderful resource. It's selfcervix.com, I believe. And she also has an Instagram, selfcervix. If you want to do a little bit deeper dive, and hell, go for it, right? Like sometimes, like I actually did the cervix one first. That's the one I found first because that's really what's out there. The vaginal de-armoring just kind of came up, like I think in a blog post I was reading about it, or I just went, I wonder, because I don't know much about my cervix, but I know I can't feel anything in my vagina, so there must be the same thing, right? So we need to start talking about this more. I'll probably start a hashtag somewhere, probably on Instagram. So P.S. follow me on Instagram at Ecstatic Alchemy, and to get the conversation started. So we'll talk about that. Thank you for joining me if you've made it this far. And I hope everybody has a very safe, very happy Christmas and holiday season, and just try to enjoy the moments, right? Holidays can be difficult for a lot of us for different reasons, but sometimes coming together with family is hard. It's hard. They're not all super accepting of us, right? So try to find little moments of joy in this time to kind of get you through it. That's always what it's about, right? When it doesn't feel good, when it's rough, when it's difficult, struggling, whatever, those little moments of joy can really get us through it. So find those little moments of joy. Have a very, very happy holiday, a very Merry Christmas, and I will talk with you guys later.